somebody. This is very interesting. I want y'all to tell me what y'all think about this.
Not a world unless something drastically changes where he's going to be the quarterback if the Saints maintain this first overall pick. I have them going with Fernando Mendoza, who's been absolutely balling out at Indiana. He has taken his game to the next level. He's one of these guys we talked about in the summer. Wanted to see him make those steps once he got to Indiana and playing Big Ten football, and he's done that and then some. And a lot of times, almost every time, when you're drafted first overall, you're going to a terrible football team. Guess what? Mendoza has some experience playing on a bad football team. Last year at Cal, that offensive line was horrendous. The offensive line will actually be a little bit improved in New Orleans. The playmakers around them will be in question in the defense, but I think that's the Saints' best plan of action right now.
All right, so there he is. That's brother from CBS. That guy got to have a record in how many mock drafts he does. But he has the Saints. He says they should take Fernando Mendoza from Indiana. You can see his numbers right there. So is that? Let me ask y'all this is what we doing, family? Let's say if the Saints bottom out, they already bottomed out, but let's say they hold on to the number 1 pick. What do you guys think they should do with it? Let's hear from you. What should the Saints do? Is Fernando Mendoza the guy? Despite the fact the Saints just took a quarterback the first time this high since Archie Manning in the 70s. Should Mendoza be the next guy? Now, listen, it's not the same as like when you took a Jake Hayner or Spencer Rattler. When you go to 2 and up to 1, it's a whole nother thing. Should they take it? Me personally, I don't think this is, it'll be a wasted pick because, number one, Kellen Moore believes in Tyler Shuck is what he's telling us. But the issue with the Saints, I'm going to say this again. I think it's offensive line. I'm going to just be honest with you. Now, of course, they can use a wide receiver. Of course, they can use a corner man. Of course, they can use another linebacker. Of course, they can use an edge rusher. Of course, they can. But you're not going to win anything unless you build the trenches. Right now, you can see what's going on with your trenches right now, can't you? You're right. You're having a lot of problems. Interiorly speaking, like the Trevor Penning thing, even though we like Torres Simpkins, we still have to give him some competition on that left guard position. Cesar Ruiz is not the answer at the right guard position. And Eric McCoy, when he's good, when he's healthy, he's good. But McCoy is not the same McCoy that we've seen the last 3 years. He's missed a lot of games over the last 4 games. Like I said, it's 20-plus games in 4 years. That's a lot of games to miss with the injuries mounting up on him. And you have to start looking at a replacement for McCoy when he gets ready to leave, when his contract is up, right? We're going to have to be able to look at that because if we cannot run the football and protect the quarterback, it's going to be a long, bad time for whoever you got throwing back there, whether it's Mendoza or whether it's Tyler Shuck or whomever you get. It's going to be difficult. The Saints have to do something with their offense and defensive lines. And also, I don't know what's going on with it. You study the tape. It's different, the level of aggression. Like we watch some offensive linemen really get after you, right? And they really maul out. They have a maul and dominate mentality. I don't see that in the Saints offensive linemen. I really don't see that. They don't look like I'm going to destroy the defensive lineman person in front of me. They don't look like that. They look more like they about to escort you to the moonlight ball and y'all gonna do some dancing. That's what they look like. It don't look nothing physical and aggressive to me. It don't look like they coming to destroy and to knock you on, you do all this kind of stuff consistently. The mentality, they look really kind of soft. They're not a dominating line. And I'm saying, I know Kelvin Banks Jr. I seen how he played in Texas. He's that kind of player. I seen how Tolly played in college. He's that type of player. So what kind of instruction are they getting from this offensive line coach? They have them less aggressive, it appears, right? I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, it definitely does bear some investigating to see that. But more like what I'm seeing, looking at this team, trenches are necessary. We have to be able to rebuild the inside interior of both these defense and offensive line. Look what we're giving up, 120 plus yards a game being ran on with teams just running, gashing the Saints, just gashing them. And it ain't the fact that they're tired. They're doing it to them early when they first step on the field. There is no mentality to or saying you're not going to run on us. You're not going to. It is none of that. It's just like these guys are a pile of losers. They just run through you, get up and go back to the line. They just walking out the strain. Nobody playing with no toughness. Nobody playing with no ferocity. Nobody playing with any pride and saying, hey, man, you're not going to do that. Nobody pointing at the other guy saying, man, wake the hell up. This kind of stuff. You don't see none of that. Guys just going through the motion, cashing checks. We need a physical presence in the interior of the defensive line where you can't run on them like that. And then for the offensive line, we're going backwards. And I know McCoy's not there, but even when Eric was there, he was getting stood up. And I don't know, I think he was still hurt, He had to have been because he didn't look nearly as good as that I'm used to seeing from him. But still in all, like I said, we're not running the ball very well interiorly from the offensive line standpoint, and we're not stopping the run. That both gears to the defense and offensive lines need, whether you do that in free agency. And I don't know, I got the feeling that the Saints are not going to be super shoppers in free agency. Right? Word on the street is that they're trying to dial back on the money. That's the word that I'm getting from the Pelican side of things, that they don't want to spend as much money, right? They're dialing back on the money because Griffin, who was there before on the Pelican side, spent a lot of money. Now they come using Joe, and Joe, they were very liberal spenders when David Griffin was there. Then they fired him, and now they got Joe, and now they're conservative. But that don't stop with just the Pelicans. That philosophy flows to the Saints. It's the same leadership group. So they spent a lot of money in the previous regime under Dennis Allen, right? That's why they didn't want to fire him because, you got to pay him all this kind of stuff. But still in all, that car situation was very expensive. So the approach now is, you can see both of them is like, can we build with guys out of the draft or doing this because it appears to be a cheaper route, but you have to develop the talent. When you get free agents that come here, somebody else developed them. And you just merely have to slide them into your system. But when you picking them, you have to pick the right guy, and you have to make sure he fits your system, and you have to be able to then take this player and put him into your system successfully on time, because you only have 4 years. 5 years with a first round guy, and the rest of them is 4 years. So you on the clock as soon as you get these guys. So you have to make sure you pick the proper guy and put him into your system and acclimate him into it. Like, drafting ain't enough. Look, we had Isaiah Foskey, we had Trevor Penning. If you look at the tape, they had talent. So what happened? Peyton Turner, Marcus Davenport, what happened? You see what I'm saying? We're missing on that. So that's why I'm kind of cautiously moving about when we see all the Saints collecting draft assets. I gave them credit for the draft they did this year because the majority of all those players made the team. All of them made it. We still have the defensive end, Fadil Diggs, who should get some. Him and Matavo should get opportunities to play. But even the 7th-round draft picks made the team. A couple of them on the practice squad right now. But at some point during the year, they both were on the active roster. Now that the team is going into a developmental approach, we need to use those guys. So the Jake Stalls and all these guys need to lose minutes. So we can develop Matavo, we can develop Fadil Diggs, we can develop these guys for next year, and then they bring in another class. So like I said, the Saints are going to look a lot different next year insofar as all of the big money veterans that really ain't doing too much now. The DeMarios, the Cams, and all these kind of guys, they're on the back end of their careers. They're not as effective to the winning now anyway. So those guys will fade out. Taysom Hill, Foster Monroe, those contracts, they'll fall off, and then you'll have a bunch of younger guys, which means it's going to be even more mistake-prone football. It's going to be more mistake-prone football. But like I said, we have to see if they can develop these players that we're getting picks for into something once the draft roll around. So I disagree with the CBS analysts' take on Fernando Mendoza for the team. I don't think Kellen Moore is going to say, hey, man, listen, we need to take Mendoza from Indiana. What about Tyler Shutt? When we're going to put them together, make them compete. I don't think he's going to do that. He ain't going to do that. He's going to say Tyler's this guy, and he's going to try to put pieces together for Tyler so he can have weapons going into the future. He's basically handcuffed himself to Tyler Shuck. And the Saints are not going to be liberal with taking first-round picks. They're not going to – it's first time in since the 70s they took a quarterback in the second round. You thinking they're going to take a first one the next year? That's just not – just not how they roll, right? But yeah, I think at the end of the day, they need to get linemen. They need linemen up front, man. Cesar Ruiz is not the answer. You need a left guard, and McCoy keeps getting hurt. Defensively, you getting ran on, period. Divine Gacho, you're probably not going to get rid of him right on. You still got, a couple of years on his contract. But Nate Shepard's not the answer. You got to find some help there because you can't allow them to run on you, and you still have to be able to run on them. So line help is my estimation. But we even talk about a wide receiver. Don't do you good looking at a wide out if the defensive lineman breaking through your line and knocking your quarterback on his tail. That's just how I see it. All right, big ups to y'all, man. Darlene says no. She said no. We need offensive. Yeah. We need offensive line. I agree with you. Slim say I agree with you. Q. All right. That's Anthony says not a lineman. You don't want a lineman, Anthony. Tim says trade back. We need everything. Trade back. Okay. All right. James says maybe we can get one of those draft hauls like Dicker gave for retribution. Okay. I don't think you find a team crazy enough to do what we did, right? I don't think you're going to find somebody crazy. That guy was insane, man. Mike Dicker gave up. He really thought that all he needed was a running back, and that would make the Saints team. That guy was insane. He was out of it. And the crazy part about it, fam, he didn't have to do that. We had Edgerrin James in that draft. They had Edge. The Indianapolis Colts end up with Edgerrin James. He was in that draft. So if whoever, we didn't have to go that route. We didn't have to give up all those people, We really didn't. I would have been happy with Edgerrin James, to be honest with you. And then Ricky Williams, it was just a mismatch. The man had kind of weird behavior patterns. He'd be sitting in the press conference. He'd put a helmet on with a dark visor and he'd be doing that. I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? Mike Dicker was kind of weird. When you could obviously see the man wasn't comfortable, Ricky Williams was comfortable. But I still don't see how they talk Ricky Williams into putting on a wedding dress and Mike Dicker standing next to him with a tux on. I don't know how he decided that. I don't know. That was so weird. Why did he do that? And then another one was Mike Dicker put on a roster wig and stood next to him. You remember that? I was like, this guy is insane. This guy crazy. Y'all remember that? Put one in the chat if y'all remember that, man. That's crazy. All right, but yeah. Blue says Tyler ain't it, bro. It's Tyler is it. He's Kellen Moore's quarterback. The thing about it is he needs time to develop like any quarterback. Like early on, I see him. He looks a little. I ain't gonna say confident, but he looks a little. I guess I don't want to say nervous. He has some positive parts of his game, but he got a lot of work to do. When the blitz coming, he's still showing his eyes dropping to that level. You know what I'm saying? Dropping down when that blitz coming. And as a big quarterback, you got to stand tall in the pocket and deliver the ball. And that's still that psychological thing happens when a guy like him who has so many issues and injuries, from a psychological standpoint, that has to still weigh on his mind when the blitzers are coming, right? So it's just, that's another thing you just have to deal with. You kind of have to coax that out of them. All right, yeah, there you go. That's the ones. Thank y'all, fam. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, that was crazy. That whole thing with Mike Dicker, Ricky Williams agreeing to put on a wedding dress. That boy put on a whole wedding dress, and Mike Dicker stood next to him with a tux on. I think that was a Sports Illustrated shoot. Why would he agree to that? Why would you? That to me was like, why would you even do that, bro? Then it was the one with him putting the roster wig on, standing next to him, and I'm like, this guy's crazy. Ricky Williams, I'd have snatched that damn wig. What you doing? I snatched it off his head. Oh, man. It's just crazy work. We had some insane people running our team, man. We still do. We got some insane people. All right. Anyway, man, listen. 8 picks for Ricky Williams. Yeah, that was something interesting. But the interesting thing is Uptown Stud 2010 says, I don't trust Mendoza. Yeah, this is what the CBS guy said. Also, I want to say Mel Kiper and them did one too, family. Mel Kiper and them did a mock draft today too. Or was it yesterday? Well, in the last couple of days, they did a mock where the other guy that's probably one of the most, Phil Yates did it. Phil Yates was the one that does a lot of the mock drafts and stuff. He did one with Mel Kiper, and I think Phil Yates and Mel Kiper picked Mendoza, or at least Phil Yates did. He picked Mendoza for the Saints. I'm like, nah, it's not going to happen. And like, you guys don't know the IQ of the team. They're not going to take a second round of last year and the first round of this year, and they got so many needs. They need help on the offensive line. They need help there. And it got to tell you, fam, that, the direction the Saints are moving in from a monetary standpoint, if they're accruing all of these picks, this year showed you they're not going to be big-time players in the free agent market. They're not going to be big-time players. That seems like to be a conservative thing that's kind of going between the Saints and the Pelicans organization. Remember, it's the same leadership group. So if they're going the collect the draft picks route and drafting, that's the cheaper route of the two, as opposed to going into free agency and spending money on a developed player to help you right away. So they know they're developing young team. They got time. So they're resetting the clock, and they're going with that stratagem, which means, they're gonna struggle for the next couple of years. They're going to struggle because and really it depends too on Kellen Moore. Like right now with the team at 1-8, I really want to see Kellen Moore establish an identity. That's one thing with the season loss. You can at least do that and save and get that part of the game out of the way. So when next year comes, you already have your identity attached. So that's just one thing you got to do as a 1-8 team. We have to be able to establish that. Without that, we're not really working with too much of nothing. We just don't.